Bible says, be not deceived. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
All right, it's 4 p.m. on Wall Street. Do you know where your money is?
How much should I invest?
I'm really looking for some direction.
Should I hold on to my house as an investment for my future?
What should we do to have money that we're putting aside?
Welcome to Financial Issues, where we align reality with truth. Conservative talk radio you can count on. Financial issues that you need to know.
We face a disintegrating economy, a weakened defense, and an energy policy based on the sharing of scarcity. We will simply apply to government the common sense that we all use in our daily lives.
Now, here's your host, Dan Celia.
Good morning. Welcome back to Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. It's great to be here. We've got some important economic data coming out. I guess it's important. I don't know. It depends on if you believe the numbers or not. But anyway, it's out one way or another. Retail sales rose. Now, here's what let's see. I'm looking for it. The headline says retail sales climbed. 0.4%. 0.4%. Now, it's really 0.7%, but I'm taking out autos because I think that the indication of the economy ought to be retail sales. Now, here's the interesting part. Online, non-store retailers saw a rise of 2.2% in retail sales increase over November a year ago. So pretty amazing increase. As a matter of fact, they went well over $1 billion, a pretty big number for retail sales on the internet, but didn't have much of an impact. So we got a 0.4% rise in retail sales numbers. So wait a minute. Consumer confidence, 5-year high last week. Well, job numbers, we're down to 7% unemployment. Oh, and it's Christmas? 0.4%? Yeah, there's a correlation there, all right, to what's the numbers say. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. It was a very important number because basically you've got European sales. Now, yesterday we had all the indices down considerably. The Dow was down 129. We're down below 16,000 again on the Dow. And this morning we saw negative European stocks based on our retail sales numbers. So they're watching that. Now, the futures went up on this huge 0.4% tick up in retail sales. The futures, indice futures went up. So right now it's looking like they're scheduled to open positive. We'll have to see. Jobless claims. Remember, we saw great jobless claims last week, right? It was down below 300,000. Well, it rose by 68,000. Slight rise. Wait a minute. I thought it was Christmas. Anyway, we see a set of numbers that everybody, myself included, I'm not discounting myself because I got a little overly enthusiastic over the numbers. But some of the trends that the numbers were pointing to looked pretty good, and I felt pretty good about it from an economic standpoint. Are they out the door? No, not quite yet, but getting close. But jobless claims, first-time claims for unemployment benefits rose 68,000 to 368,000, according to the Department of Labor on Thursday. Now, they're making all kinds of excuses. They're going back to the furloughed workers being adjusted in or out or whatever the situation is. The 4-week average of initial claims rose 6,000 to 328,000. That's our 4-week moving average. 4-week moving average is a much better indicator than any 1 week. So still well above 300,000. Continuing claims, those that are longer than, I want to say more than 18 weeks or so, rose 40,000. So that was up as well. And the 4-week moving average of continuing claims declined 4,750. So that's where we are on the jobless claims number. So it looks like more people becoming unemployed as we head into the end of the year. Could that be due to Obamacare? Yeah. Coming out today, speaking of Obamacare, is the fact that the Obamacare website is now counting as enrollees anybody that went onto the website and put anything in their cart. Now, I don't know about you, but I do probably the majority of anything I need, I get online. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, that's what I do. I probably have online accounts that have stuff in my cart from a year ago that when I shop, so I don't have to go back and search for something I was looking at, I throw it in my cart, right? So I put it in my cart, and then I decide after I look at my cart, you know what, I'm not spending that much money. I know I need it, but I don't need it that bad. I'm going to wait, and I just leave it in my cart. Well, can you imagine the sales numbers that Amazon would have, for instance? Can you imagine how good those sales numbers would be if they counted as sales everything in people's carts? Wow. It'd be through the roof. As a matter of fact, I would say to the Department of Labor, hey, you want to get Department of Commerce, you want to get those retail sales numbers up? Hey, here's an idea. Start going to the websites of Amazon and all these online shoppers and just count everything in the cart. Well, we will look like we've got a thriving economy to the likes of which we've never seen. Anyway, that's what is happening. So, again, I don't believe, I may be wrong about this, but I can't believe there's more than a handful of people that would believe the numbers that are going to come out of the government in reference to Obamacare. I mean, are there people out there that maybe there's more than a handful, or maybe there's none at all. But, you know, I figure there's friends and relatives of people that are responsible for that probably believe it. So I'm thinking a handful. But anyway, yeah, that's what we're including now. But don't worry, Kathleen Sebelius has called for an investigation. Of what? Herself? She's calling for an investigation of herself? You know, it's a beautiful thing, because if you call for an investigation, surely you can't be the responsible person, or you wouldn't be calling for it, right? Anyway, she's calling for an investigation of the Obamacare website. Anyway, European stocks dropped for the third day in a row. Asian stocks are hanging in there, not doing too well. We've got a good piece of news that came out for North America in general, Mexico, America, and Canada. And that would be that it looks like the Mexican parliament passed a law to really basically shoot down a 70-year-old monopoly that the government has had on the oil industry. And basically, they are now going to allow the private sector, private companies, that are going to get involved now in the oil and gas production for Mexico. It is believed that there are some pretty decent reserves of oil and natural gas, both offshore and onshore in Mexico. And now the corrupt government's not going to control all of that. And it passed by a very wide margin of 354 to 134. So I think that's pretty good news. It's particularly good news for some of those private sector companies that we've talked about that we have on our watch list. So I think that's pretty good news. I had some information. Some of you don't know much about this guy, but the guy that was head of the OMB, the Office for Management and Budget for the Reagan administration, fell by the name of David. Fell by the name of David Stockman. Was on CNBC this morning, and this is a pretty smart guy. This is a guy that's been around politics for a long time. This is a guy that has many comments out there in reference to the state of our economy, the state of our debt, the state of our lack of budget, and so on and so forth. This guy that knows a thing or two about budgeting the government. And he had some very, very interesting comments. And when we get comments from a guy like him, I think we would do well to pay attention. Now, I think we would be served well to pay attention to a lot of the comments in reference to the budget for a couple of reasons. One is it backs up what I said like yesterday on the program about the budget. But we still have Paul Ryan and others. I heard Paul Ryan this morning defending his betrayal or his compromise or whatever you want to call it, defending it. John Boehner, very upset over those on the right that care about the deficit. I'll play that clip as well. But listen to, and then we're going to get to the phones. 866-392-98, 866-392-98. If you got a financial question. But listen to David Stockman, clip 275, Devin. Go ahead.
Let's be clear. It's a joke and a betrayal. It's the final surrender of the House Republican leadership to beltway politics and to kicking the can and ignoring this budget monster that's hurtling down the road. They're busting the caps, and it's totally unnecessary. It's going to add $70 billion to spending this year and next year, and then they're going to pretend to save it in 22 and 23 way down the road. They've not only kicked the can down the road, they've kicked it into low Earth orbit.
You know, 22, he says 22 to 2023 before we get around to doing anything about it. And that's questionable because remember, we're going to have a new president that is going to be looking to get, oh no, that's right. That would be the lame duck session of the current president. I'm sorry, in 22 to 23, right? Let me see, 16 to 20. Yes. So if that president that gets reelected at 16 is still in office. But anyway, that's what he's talking about, that it is a joke. He says it's a joke and a betrayal. He went on to say this, 76, Devin, go ahead.
If we let the sequester happen and not bust it as they did, $580 billion of domestic discretionary spending. Bill Clinton left with $400 billion in today's dollars. He wasn't starving Head Start or the National Health Institute and all the rest. There's plenty of room, but they're unwilling to make the tough choices. Now, I understand Democrats doing that. The only hope of getting our fiscal situation under control is if the House Republicans stand up, and they've totally capitulated. And I think it is going to trigger an enormous negative reaction from the Tea Party Republicans, who ought to go after every incumbent Republican who votes for this abomination.
Wow. Some harsh words, some true words, calling it an abomination and talking about the fact that the Republicans have no spine. He didn't say it in those words, but he just said, the Republicans, Republicans unwilling to make any kind of tough choices. And we're kicking this can down the road, and he's calling it an abomination. And what he means, it's an abomination for the state of America and for the state of our economy and for future generations, but nobody seems to care. He went on to talk about this is just allowing Congress to take a 2-year vacation from even dealing with this issue, because we're not going to deal with it again until 2015. So, it's insanity. And, now I know that we have people like John Boehner that's pretty upset with it. And we've got people like Nancy Pelosi that kind of like it. And John Boehner's not upset with the bill. John Boehner's not upset with the compromise or the betrayal and the joke that this is. He's not upset with that. He's upset over those on the right that are defending this. Folks, this is just that. This is a guy who understands. David Stockman is a guy that, again, worked under the Reagan administration for the OMB. He's somebody that understands. Listen, we're not going to get to this John Boehner clip, but go to John Boehner. Go ahead.
Major conservative groups have put out statements blasting this deal. Are you worried?
You mean the groups that came out and opposed it before they ever saw it?
Yes, those groups. Are you worried that
they're using our members and they're using the American people for their own goals? This is ridiculous. Listen, if you're for more deficit reduction, you're for this agreement.
Yeah, more deficit reduction? What more deficit? By the time they get around to addressing it, I want to know if this deficit reduction is going to reduce our deficit immediately. Are we going to see, the day this is signed into law, are we going to see the debt clock start reversing for a period of time? Is that what we're going to see? I want to know if we're going to see that. That's what I want to know. And I want to know that we're going to have a smaller deficit in another 4 years. We'll be right back.